Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that fear isn't your enemy? It's your fuel, that the same emotion that's been holding you back, keeping you small, stealing your sleep is actually the key to unlocking your power. Every time your heart races, every time anxiety hits, your body isn't breaking down and it's gearing up. It's preparing you to rise. The problem isn't the fear itself, it's that you've been trained to run from it instead of using it. But today, I'm going to show you one simple shift that can turn fear into unstoppable energy in seconds. And fear and anxiety, two invisible forces that have the power to control more people's lives than anything else in this world. They hold you back, they whisper lies in your ear, they convince you that you can't, when in reality, you absolutely can. Every single one of us has faced those moments when your heart starts pounding for no reason, when your mind spirals into what if after what if, and when that simple step forward feels like climbing a mountain. But there's something most people never realize. Fear isn't the enemy. Fear is energy, misdirected energy. And when you learn how to redirect that energy, you don't just manage fear, you transform it into your greatest fuel. And there's one simple technique, one shift, that can help you overcome fear and anxiety faster than anything else. And it's not complicated. It doesn't take years of therapy. It doesn't require you to escape your life or meditate on a mountain. It's something you can do right now, right here, in the middle of chaos, stress, or doubt. The technique is called "we're changing your state." The ability to shift your mind and body instantly, because the truth is fear and anxiety don't live in reality. They live in your physiology and your focus and in the meaning you attach to the moment. Change any of those three and fear loses its power. And do you think about it? When you're anxious, what's your body doing? Shoulders tense, breathing shallow, maybe your stomach tightens, your jaw clenches, and your thoughts start racing. That physical pattern is the trigger that locks fear into place. But if in that exact moment you break the pattern, stand up straight, breathe deeply, move your body, shake out that tension, you send a new message to your brain. I'm in control now. The mind follows the body. You cannot think your way out of anxiety while your body is acting out fear. You have to move first. And when you change your physiology, you open the door to change your focus. Fear grows when your attention is stuck on what you can't control. Anxiety thrives when your mind fixates on what might go wrong. The moment you catch yourself spiraling, stop and ask, what am I focusing on right now? Then shift it. Focus on what you can control. Focus on what's in front of you. Focus on the next step, not the next 100, because the brain can't process fear when it's fully engaged in purposeful action. Action is the antidote to anxiety. And then when your body and focus are aligned, the final piece is meaning. Because nothing in life has meaning except the meaning you give it. The same event that paralyzes one person can empower another. Two people can experience the same fear, the same setback, and one sees it as destruction while the other sees it as direction. So when fear shows up, instead of asking, why is this happening to me? I ask, what is this fear trying to teach me? What's the message here? That single question transforms fear from a wall into a doorway. And there's power in remembering that anxiety isn't a signal of weakness, it's a signal to grow. It's your body's alarm system saying you're on the edge of something bigger. Most people try to silence that alarm by running from it. They numb it with distraction, with comfort, with routine. But those who master life know how to use that alarm as a call to action. They lean in, they breathe deeper, they stand taller. They recognize that fear isn't something to escape, it's something to command. And if you've ever watched someone perform at a high level, an athlete, a speaker, a soldier, a parent, you'll notice something. They feel fear too. But they don't label it as fear. They call it energy. They've conditioned themselves to associate that surge of adrenaline not with panic, but with power. That's what changing your state does. It rewires your relationship with emotion. You stop identifying with fear and you start directing it. And let me give you a simple example you can try right now. Stand up, roll your shoulders back, take a deep breath into your belly, and exhale with strength. Do it again, deeper this time. Now put your hand on your heart. Feel it beating. That's life. That's energy. That's not fear. That's your body preparing to move, to respond, to rise. Look up, not down. Stretch your face into a smile, even if it feels forced. Why? Because your body can't hold fear and gratitude at the same time. One will push the other out. So you choose your emotional home. And when you train yourself to control your state, you become unstoppable. Suddenly, situations that once triggered panic now trigger clarity. Instead of freezing up, you move. Instead of overthinking, you act. Instead of letting fear own your future, you use it as a compass pointing toward your next level. Because here's the truth. The presence of fear almost always means growth is near. Fear is feedback. It's life saying, you're about to break through. And so the next time anxiety hits, don't fight it. Feel it, then shift it. Change your physiology, then move your body. Change your focus. Look for what's in your control. Change the meaning. Make it empowering. You'll be shocked how fast your emotional state can change because fear can't survive in motion. Anxiety can't breathe in gratitude. Doubt can't exist in purpose. And you see, most people wait to feel confident before taking action. They wait until the fear disappears. But it never does. Confidence doesn't come from waiting. It comes from action. It's built through doing the thing that scares you. It's earned by showing your brain that you can survive what it fears. And every time you do, your nervous system learns that fear isn't fatal. That's how courage is created. Not in the absence of fear, but in your ability to move despite it. And so when fear whispers, "What if I fail?" answer it with, "What if I fly?" When anxiety says, "You can't handle this," tell it, "Watch me." Because you are stronger than the storm inside you. You've survived every moment that once felt impossible. And that means you can handle whatever comes next. And the truth is, fear and anxiety lose their power the moment you stop treating them as enemies. They're not here to destroy you. They're here to direct you. They remind you of your humanity, your aliveness, your potential for growth. They appear when something inside you is expanding beyond the limits of comfort. And your job isn't to shrink back, it's to expand with it. And every time you catch yourself falling into that anxious pattern, use it as your cue. Breathe, move, focus, reframe. That's the technique. That's the simple shift that changes everything. You can do it in 30 seconds, anywhere, anytime. And when you repeat it, it becomes automatic. Fear loses its grip because your brain learns that you decide your state, not your circumstances, not your thoughts, not your past. And imagine what your life would look like if fear no longer stopped you. Imagine how different your relationships, your goals, your confidence would feel if every time anxiety appeared, you turned it into action. That's not a fantasy. It's a decision. The moment you decide that fear is fuel, everything changes. And because there's a part of you that already knows how powerful you are, you've just forgotten. You've let fear talk louder than your purpose. But that stops the second you take your power back. The second you move, breathe, focus, and reframe. That's when fear becomes your ally. That's when anxiety becomes energy. And that's when you finally step into the strength that's been waiting inside you all along. And the moment you begin to see fear as a signal instead of a sentence, everything in your life begins to shift. You stop living in reaction and you start living in creation. Because the truth is, fear only has control over the person who hasn't yet decided who they are. Once you define your identity, once you decide what you stand for, fear becomes just another sensation. Not a stop sign, but a spark. It's the reminder that you're alive, that you're playing full out, that you're stepping into something that matters. And most people spend their lives running from discomfort, trying to avoid any situation that stirs anxiety. But what they don't realize is that by running, they're training their nervous system to fear more. Every time you run from fear, you're teaching your brain that it's dangerous. Every time you face it, you're teaching it that you're powerful. And the brain learns through repetition. So the more you stand tall in the face of fear, the faster you rewire your internal response to it. And think about a time in your life when you were terrified to do something. Maybe it was speaking in public, having a hard conversation, or taking that leap into the unknown. You probably felt your heart racing, your palms sweating, your mind flooding with doubt. But then you did it anyway. And the moment it was over, you felt that incredible rush, that sense of freedom. That's not an accident. That's your nervous system rewarding you for stepping through fear instead of bowing to it. It's your biology saying, "Whoa, this is who you really are." And see, fear is never the problem. It's the meaning you attach to it that determines whether it cripples or fuels you. You can look at fear and say, "This means I'm in danger," or you can say, "This means I'm growing." The meaning determines your movement. And when your meaning shifts, so does your destiny. Because once you understand that fear is a doorway to expansion, you stop asking for an easy life and you start demanding a meaningful one. And there's a power that awakens inside you when you choose to face fear head on. It's the power of presence. Because fear lives in the future, and it's a projection of what might happen. Anxiety is the imagination used against you. But presence, that deep awareness of now, is where fear loses its oxygen. You can't be fully present and terrified at the same time. The moment you anchor into this moment, breathe deeply, and ground yourself in the now, fear dissolves like fog under the sun. And so the next time your heart starts to race and that voice of doubt begins to whisper, pause, feel your feet on the ground. Feel your breath moving through your body. Notice that right here, right now, you are safe. Fear lives in your imagination. Strength lives in your awareness. The simple act of breathing intentionally can disrupt the pattern of panic, because when you control your breath, you control your nervous system. And there's an ancient truth that says where focus goes, energy flows. That's not just poetic, it's physiological. When you focus on fear, your body prepares for it. When you focus on strength, your body follows that command. You can literally train your nervous system to expect empowerment instead of danger. How? Through repetition, through conditioning, through conscious choice. Every time fear shows up, instead of retreating, smile and say, I've been waiting for you. Because that means growth is here. That means you're stretching into new territory. And remember this, the goal is not to live without fear. That's impossible, and you wouldn't want to. Fear is part of your survival system. It keeps you alert, aware, alive. The goal is to master fear, to use it as a tool rather than letting it use you. When you learn to dance with it instead of running from it, you reclaim your freedom. You become unshakable. And think of fear like fire. In the hands of the untrained, it burns, destroys, consumes. But in the hands of the master, it cooks, warms, and creates light. The same flame that can burn you can also build your future if you learn to direct it. And that's what changing your state does. It gives you control over the fire. It gives you the ability to say, I choose how this energy will serve me. And there will always be moments that test you, moments where uncertainty feels overwhelming, where the outcome seems unclear, where your mind starts screaming that you're not ready. But the truth is, you don't need certainty to act. You just need courage. And courage doesn't mean you don't feel fear, and it means you feel it and move anyway. The greatest breakthroughs in your life are always hidden behind the door marked fear. And ask yourself, what's one thing in your life right now that fear has been stopping you from doing? Maybe it's pursuing a dream, having that difficult conversation, starting that business, or setting that boundary. Whatever it is, you already know the next step. The question is, will you take it? Because the person you're meant to become is waiting on the other side of that decision, and fear is simply the guard dog at the gate. Once you face it, you realize it was never that powerful. It just barked loudly. And when fear rises, your instinct might be to shrink, to retreat, to hide, but that instinct isn't truth. It's a program. It's your brain trying to protect you from the unknown. You can thank it for trying to help, but you don't have to obey it. Instead, move your body, breathe deeply, smile, and step forward. The brain learns safety through experience. The more you act in the face of fear, the safer your nervous system feels taking risks. Over time, what once terrified you becomes your new comfort zone. And you weren't born with fear, you were born with curiosity. Watch any child. They touch, explore, climb, ask questions, and fall 100 times without hesitation. Fear is learned through conditioning, and if it's learned, it can be unlearned. You can retrain your brain to associate fear with excitement, to see uncertainty as adventure, to transform anxiety into anticipation. It starts with one choice repeated again and again, to move forward despite discomfort. And when you begin to live this way, something profound happens. You stop trying to control everything around you and start mastering what's within you. You realize that fear and anxiety aren't obstacles. They're invitations. Invitations to expand, to evolve, to awaken parts of yourself that you never knew existed. And every time you accept that invitation, you build a deeper sense of confidence. Not the kind that comes from external validation, but the kind that's built on truth. The truth that no matter what comes, you can handle it. And it's not about never feeling afraid again. It's about knowing exactly what to do when fear shows up. You recognize it, breathe through it, move your body, shift your focus, change your meaning. You take control of your state, and from that empowered state, you make decisions that align with your highest self. And with each repetition, your threshold for fear expands. You become the kind of person who moves through life with certainty, not because life is certain, but because you are. And that's the difference between those who stay stuck and those who rise. It's not that the strong feel no fear, it's that they refuse to let it dictate their destiny. They've trained their nervous system to see fear as a signal for focus, not failure. And that's available to you right now. You don't need years of practice, you just need awareness and action. Because transformation doesn't happen in the future. It happens in the moment you decide to stop letting fear be the driver. And every great leader, every innovator, every world changer has faced fear and chosen to move anyway. They've stood where you're standing, heart racing, uncertainty swirling, and they took the next step. And that step created momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence builds certainty. And certainty builds freedom. And you are capable of the same shift. You have that power inside you. It's not buried in some distant future or waiting for permission. It's right here in your decision to take command of your state. Because once you realize that emotion follows motion, that physiology shapes psychology, and that meaning is a choice, you hold the master key to every door fear tries to lock. And fear only wins if you freeze. But when you move, breathe, focus, and decide, fear becomes your ally. It sharpens your awareness, fuels your drive, and reminds you that you're alive. It's not there to stop you. It's there to wake you up. And once you understand that, you stop running from fear and start using it as the fire that forges your strength. And because once you understand that fear is not your enemy, but your mirror, life begins to open in ways you never imagined. It reflects your limits back to you, not to shame you, but to show you where you're meant to grow. Every fear you face is a message pointing toward your next level. It says, this is where your freedom lives. The people who seem fearless aren't born different. They've just practiced courage more times than others. They've conditioned themselves to step forward when their body says retreat. And that conditioning is available to you the moment you choose to no longer let fear make your decisions. And fear feeds on inaction. The longer you hesitate, the louder it grows. The faster you move, the weaker it becomes. Think of fear as a shadow. It looks massive when you're standing still, but the moment you walk toward the light, it shrinks behind you. The only way to reduce the size of your fear is to move in the direction of it, because motion is power. When you take even the smallest step, you signal to your brain that you are in control, that you are no longer prey but a predator, hunting your purpose, chasing your potential, creating your destiny. And every person you admire, every story of greatness you've ever heard, started with someone who felt afraid and acted anyway. They didn't wait for the perfect moment or the perfect plan. They made the moment perfect through their courage. They understood that growth and comfort can't coexist. You can have safety or you can have strength, but rarely both at the same time. When you stop chasing comfort and start chasing challenge, that's when life begins to change. And so many people live their entire lives behind invisible walls built by fear. They wake up, go to work, and come home trapped inside the same thoughts, the same doubts, the same what-ifs. They never step outside that wall because they think fear means stop. But fear only means pay attention. It's not a red light, it's a green light with higher stakes. It's your invitation to rise, to stretch, to step into the part of yourself that knows you were meant for more. And you see, anxiety is just energy without direction. It's your body screaming to move, but your mind holding you back. That's why one of the fastest ways to overcome anxiety is to give it direction. Turn the fear into focus. Channel the nervous energy into something productive, something that serves your mission. Because you can't eliminate energy, you can only transform it. The same energy that fuels anxiety can fuel action, passion, creativity, and power. It all depends. Endies on where you aim it. And that's the beauty of being human. You have the power to aim your emotions. You don't have to be a victim of how you feel. You can decide what to do with it. You can say, this fear means I care. This anxiety means something matters to me. This discomfort means I'm growing stronger. And in that instant, you reclaim your control. And there's a powerful truth that most people never realize. Fear only thrives in uncertainty. It needs you to stay in your head, to overthink, to analyze every outcome. But the moment you take decisive action, the fog lifts. Fear dissolves in clarity. It can't survive when you're in motion, when you're focused on doing rather than doubting. That's why movement, both physical and mental, is the secret weapon. The moment you feel fear creeping in, change your body, change your focus, and take immediate action, even if it's small. Make the call, start the project, speak up, breathe deeper, walk outside. Anything that shifts your momentum shifts your mind. And the mind follows the body. If your body acts with courage, your mind begins to believe it. You don't wait until you feel confident to move. You move until you feel confident. Confidence is the result, not the requirement. Every bold action you take carves a new pattern into your nervous system, a pattern that says, when fear comes, I rise. And over time, that becomes your automatic response. And when fear shows up, most people ask, what if I fail? But those who thrive ask, what if I don't? What if this is the moment everything changes? That's the difference between fear-driven thinking and growth-driven thinking. Both feel the same emotion. One uses it to retreat, the other uses it to advance. And you can start to rewire your mind by practicing what I call emotional inversion, flipping fear on its head. When you feel anxious, instead of saying, I'm scared, say, I'm excited, because fear and excitement are the same physiological state. The only difference is the meaning you give it. Your heart races, your palms sweat, your breath shortens. That's energy preparing you for performance. It's your body gearing up for greatness. The moment you label it as excitement, your brain releases chemicals that enhance focus instead of paralyzing it. And then the truth is, you've been doing this your whole life without realizing it. Think about the first day of school, your first job interview, the first time you spoke up, the first time you took a risk. You felt fear, but underneath it was excitement, the anticipation of something new, something meaningful. That's the signal. The greater the fear, the greater the potential reward on the other side. Fear is life's way of saying there's something valuable here. And that's why the people who live the fullest lives aren't the ones who avoid fear, but the ones who chase it. They've learned that the feeling of fear is the gateway to expansion. They run toward it because they know that on the other side is freedom, power, and fulfillment. When you make fear your compass, it always leads you to the path that matters most. And you might be thinking, but what if I fail? And you might fall, you might stumble, but failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the foundation of it. Every success story is built on the ashes of countless attempts. Failure is feedback. It teaches you, refines you, strengthens you. And once you stop fearing failure, fear itself loses its grip. Because when you no longer need to be perfect, you finally give yourself permission to be powerful. And fear wants you to stay small. It wants you to avoid risk because it knows that risk creates growth and growth creates change. And change is the one thing fear cannot survive. So every time you take a risk, every time you act despite trembling hands and a racing heart, you kill fear a little more. You take its power and make it your own. And that's the essence of transformation, not the absence of fear, but mastery over it. When fear says you're not ready, you answer, I'll never be ready, and I don't need to be. When anxiety says you might fall, you reply, then I'll rise stronger. You start to see fear as a test of how badly you want your freedom, how committed you are to your vision. And the more you pass those tests, the more unstoppable you become. And it's not about being fearless. It's about being fear-trained. It's about recognizing that fear is just a messenger and that you decide what the message means. If it says stop, you rewrite it to mean go. If it says danger, you translate it into direction. You become the author of your emotions instead of the reader of them. And that's when life starts to bend to your will instead of breaking you down. And everything you want, the love, the success, the freedom, the fulfillment, it all lives on the other side of fear. But that other side isn't far away. It's a single step forward. One action, one decision, one breath taken with intention. That's all it takes to begin shifting from anxious to alive, from fearful to focused, from uncertain to unstoppable. And because underneath every fear is a truth you've forgotten, you are capable. You've faced pain before and survived. You've faced uncertainty and adapted. You've walked through darkness and found light. You've already proven that you can handle more than you think. So when fear rises again, remember, it's not the signal to retreat. It's the signal that you're standing right at the edge of transformation. And your only job is to take the next step forward. And because that next step is where your power lives. It's the bridge between who you are and who you're meant to become. Most people never take that step because they believe the fear has to disappear first. But the truth is, the step itself is what dissolves the fear. The moment you move, you prove to your brain that you're not controlled by emotion. You're guided by intention. That single act begins to break years of conditioning that told you fear was a stop sign. It's not. It's an initiation, a test to see if you're truly ready for the life you say you want. And every time you act despite fear, your self-trust grows. You begin to build an unshakable belief that no matter what happens, you can handle it. And that belief is freedom. That belief is power. Because once you trust yourself, fear loses its leverage. It can whisper, it can shake you, but it can't stop you. Most people aren't controlled by fear itself. They're controlled by their lack of trust in their own ability to face it. Build that trust, and everything changes. And it starts small. It starts with the tiny decisions, the ones that seem insignificant but shape your destiny. When you decide to have that conversation you've been avoiding, to say what you mean, to try something new, to put yourself out there, you're teaching your subconscious that you're capable. You're rewriting your identity from someone who hides to someone who acts. And that identity becomes your new foundation. And there's a moment in every person's life when they realize they're not afraid of the world and they're afraid of their own potential. Because deep down, you know what you're capable of. You can feel it, that restless energy, that anxiety you call fear. It's really your power trying to break through the walls of comfort. It's the untapped version of you saying, let me out. But you've been conditioned to shrink, to stay small, to wait for permission. Fear feeds on that hesitation. The moment you stop asking for permission and start acting from purpose, the walls begin to crumble. And when you finally step into the unknown, you realize it's not darkness, it's space. Space for creation, growth, transformation. You begin to see that fear was never there to hold you back. It was there to prepare you for the expansion that way. as coming, because growth requires resistance. You can't build strength without weight. You can't build courage without fear. You can't build peace without facing chaos. The challenge is not there to defeat you. It's there to define you. And you can start to shift the way you view fear by simply observing it instead of identifying with it. When that rush of anxiety comes, don't say, I am afraid. Say, I'm feeling fear. That small language shift changes everything. You are not your fear. You are the awareness observing it. The moment you separate your identity from your emotion, you gain control. You stop drowning in it and start directing it. And the problem is, most people don't pause long enough to see what's really happening. They feel fear and immediately react. They avoid, they overthink, they retreat. But if you could just breathe and observe for a moment, you'd notice that fear always follows the same pattern. Tension in the body, racing thoughts, shrinking focus. Break that pattern and you break fear's power. Take a deep breath, straighten your posture, move your body. That's how you interrupt the cycle. It's simple, but powerful. Because every time you shift your physiology, you shift your psychology. And you can't think your way out of fear while your body is acting like it's under attack. So move, walk, jump, stretch, do something that changes your energy. Then focus your mind on something empowering. Gratitude, possibility, your vision, your next small action. Fear cannot coexist with focus. The mind can only hold one dominant emotion at a time, and you get to decide what that emotion will be. And there's a reason high performers, soldiers, and athletes train themselves to stay calm under pressure. They don't eliminate fear. They master their state. They use breath, movement, focus, and repetition to condition their nervous system to perform even when afraid. You can do the same because your physiology doesn't belong to fear. It belongs to you. Once you learn to roll your state, fear becomes fuel. And imagine standing at the edge of everything you want, the career, the relationship, the confidence, the peace, and realizing the only thing between you and it is a feeling. That's all fear is, a feeling, a vibration in your body. It's not a wall, it's a wave, and you can ride it. When you lean into it instead of fighting it, you learn that it always passes, it always fades. And every time it does, you're left stronger, calmer, clearer. And most people let fear dictate their timing. They say, I'll start when I feel ready. But you and I both know that day never comes. The mind will always find another excuse, another reason to wait. You can't wait for the right moment. You make it right by acting now. The fastest way to eliminate fear is through execution. Action is the antidote to anxiety. The longer you sit with fear, the louder it gets. The moment you act, it quiets down. And the difference between a life controlled by fear and a life guided by courage is just a few seconds, the few seconds it takes to decide. Every transformation starts with a decision, the decision to stop letting fear lead and to start leading yourself. Once you decide, the rest follows. The energy you've been wasting on worry gets redirected into creation. The anxiety that used to paralyze you becomes excitement that propels you. And here's what's beautiful. Every time you break through fear, it becomes easier. The pattern rewires. Your nervous system adapts. What used to make you anxious becomes normal. What used to feel impossible becomes natural. And what used to terrify you becomes your new comfort zone. That's how you evolve. By expanding your threshold for uncertainty. The more uncertainty you can handle, the more life you can experience. And because the truth is, the most extraordinary lives are built by those who are willing to live in unity. Certainty longer than others. They've learned that the magic always happens in the unknown. That's where creativity is born, where breakthroughs occur, where transformation takes root,